Well, forever, owning property has pretty much followed the same playbook, right? You save up, you borrow a ton of money, sign a literal mountain of paperwork, and then you wait. It's just the way it's done. But what if that whole system, the very grammar of ownership we've been using, is actually ready for a total rewrite? Let's dive into how new technology is making that what if a reality right now.
And this really is the question that gets to the heart of it. We've all felt the pain points, the ridiculously high barrier to entry, the endless, mind-numbing delays, that feeling of being locked out unless you can afford to buy the entire thing. But maybe, just maybe, these aren't fundamental laws of owning property. Maybe they're just procedural headaches that we can finally fix.
You know, this comparison really lays it all out, doesn't it? We're talking about a move away from this all-or-nothing game, a world of debt and waiting games and paperwork, to a brand new system, one that's built on fractional ownership, broad access for everyone, and just sheer digital speed. It's not about replacing the buildings, it's about totally replacing the rulebook.
Okay, so how exactly are these rules getting rewritten? I mean, what's the magic trick here? Well, it all comes down to one really powerful technological idea that kind of changes everything.
And here it is. Real estate tokenization. Now, the key thing to get here is that the physical property, the land, the walls, the roof, it doesn't change one bit. What does change is how we record and prove who owns it. We're breaking it down from one giant indivisible title deed into lots of small, precise, and easily manageable digital units.
I love this idea. Ownership can be divided without being diluted. This isn't like slicing up a picture into 1,000 tiny, meaningless pieces. No, each one of these tokens carries real, actual, tangible rights, like a share of the rental income or a claim on the property's value if it's sold. You own a real piece of the asset, not just some flimsy promise.
So to really get our heads around how this is even possible, we need a good metaphor. Let's stop thinking about blockchain as complex code for a second. And instead, let's picture it as a very, very special kind of library. So imagine this huge global digital library where every single transaction is recorded as a new book. The crazy thing is, this library isn't run by any one person or company. Nope, it's maintained by thousands of independent librarians, or nodes as they're called, all over the world. This is our layer one, our base layer, the trustworthy foundation where every book is permanently stored for everyone to see.
So here's the crucial part, how a new book gets on the shelf. First, someone writes a new book. That's a transaction being created. Then, this global network of librarians all check it out to make sure it's legit. Finally, once they all agree, it gets sealed onto a shelf, a block, and it's cryptographically linked to the previous one, forming this unbreakable chain.
But wait, how do all these librarians who don't know each other agree on what's true? Well, there are two main ways. The first one, proof of work, is basically like a massive global competition to solve a super complex math puzzle. It's incredibly secure, but man, it uses a ton of energy. The newer method, proof of stake, is more like a lottery where librarians are chosen based on collateral they've put up. It's way faster and much more energy efficient.
The end result of this whole process is what our source material calls epoxy-sealed pages. I think that's a perfect description. Because once a transaction is on that shelf and chained to all the others, trying to change it would mean resolving every single puzzle that came after it. It's so difficult and so expensive that it's pretty much impossible. And that is the bedrock of trust in this whole system. But there's a catch. This super secure main library floor, it has a problem. It can get really, really crowded. And that's where the next brilliant innovation comes into play.
The base layer, that layer 1, can only handle so many transactions at once. We're talking something like 15 to 30 per second for a big network like Ethereum. So when everyone tries to add their book to the library at the same time, you guessed it, a massive traffic jam. This means long waits and really high fees. It's a classic bottleneck.
So to fix this, some very clever developers built what are basically express lanes right on top of the main library floor. These are what we call layer 2 solutions, and they let you do your transactions super quickly and cheaply, totally away from all that main floor congestion.
The main technology driving these express lanes is called a rollup, and it does pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It takes hundreds of individual transactions and rolls them up into a single, tidy bundle. It processes them all at once in that fast express lane and then just posts a small compressed summary back down to the main library. It saves a huge amount of space, time, and money.
Now these express lanes come in a couple of different flavors.
You've got optimistic rollups, which kind of work on an innocent until proven guilty model. They assume everything's fine but give folks a window to challenge any fraud. Then you have ZK rollups, which use some seriously mind-bending math. It's like a magic envelope that can prove its contents are valid without you ever having to open it to guarantee everything is correct from the get-go. But the bottom line is, both make the system way faster and way cheaper.
Okay, so that was a lot of the technical stuff, the foundation of how this all works. But now that we have this secure, super fast digital library, what does it actually do? How does this make owning a piece of property any better in the real world?
Well, in this new system, things just happen. Instantly and automatically. Imagine rent money coming in and being distributed to all the token holders, all the owners, in seconds. Ownership records update the moment a trade happens. There's no more waiting for a bank to give you an approval or for some administrator to get around to processing your paperwork. It behaves less like a slow, clunky bureaucracy and more like a law of physics. It just works.
And the result of all that? Well, it changes everything. All of a sudden, you have true liquidity. You can sell your stake in a building without having to go through the nightmare of selling the entire building itself. Our trust moves away from people and intermediaries who can make mistakes or be slow to the transparent, unbreakable code of the system. Your asset is no longer this giant, locked-up, illiquid weight. Its ownership becomes fluid, dynamic, and responsive to the market in real time.
Now, this isn't some loud, flashy revolution that you'll see on the news every night. The source material frames this as something much more subtle. It's a quiet but absolutely fundamental evolution in the way we even think about what property is.
And this quote, this one gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The walls do not change, the land does not move, only the meaning of ownership is rewritten. See, nothing physical is different. The building is still the building, the apartment is still the apartment. What's being completely transformed is the very idea of what it means to own it.
So what's the big takeaway here? At the end of the day, real estate keeps its core value, its stability, but now it gains this powerful new layer of flexibility on top. And maybe most importantly, the starting point for ownership completely shifts. It moves away from a world that begins with debt and exclusion and into a new world that begins with access, with clarity, and with the ability for almost anyone to participate.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really provocative question. Once we get used to an ownership system that is this clear, this fast, this liquid, and this accessible, are we ever going to be able to go back to the old way of doing things? It suggests a change that, once it really takes hold, might just be completely and totally inevitable.